Hey guys, this is Goku and today we're gonna be talking about how to play on the river. It is the most important street in the game, so you wanna make sure your decision making is best here. We'll talk about 4 different scenarios that you will find yourself in on the river. So, let's get right into it. I take it you've watched all the previous videos on hand selection, flop and turn play. If you haven't, go ahead and watch them. If you're playing well-balanced tight range of hands, the vast majority of hands you end up with on the river will be easy to play. Let's first talk about these. You have a very strong hand, a straight, a flush or a set or better on safe boards. Whether you're in position or not, your task here is to figure out the best way of extracting the most value. If you don't know your opponent very well, it'll probably be best to just bet out. If you have more information available to you, you can sometimes try moves like overbetting the pot or check raising, but that's only when you think there's a high chance of this working. You have a strong hand. That could be top pair, top kicker on a really dry board, 2 pair on a quite safe board, straight on a flush board, flush on a paired board. It's really hard to list all the possibilities. But let's say a strong hand is a hand you're quite sure that it is the best, but it is possible for your opponent to have you crushed. Given how the hand played out and what you know about your opponent, if it's checked to you and your heads up, you should value bet. If you're out of position, it's usually best to check call, because most of the time when you've got the best hand, your opponent will have some kind of a missed draw and he won't often call if you bet, but by checking, you allow him the chance to try and bluff you. You have a marginal hand. That could be top pair, bottom 2 pair, low end of a straight on a 4-card straight and flush board, low flush on a 4-card flush board. It's a hand that beats some of the hands from your opponent's range, but not a lot. Again, when deciding what to do, the most important thing is to take into account all the information you have available to you. If you're in position and it's checked to you, you should check the majority of time. If you're out of position and your opponent bets, you will sometimes have to call, especially if your opponent's range could have a lot of bluffs, but that will not happen too often. Most of the time, you just have to fold. With experience, you'll learn to recognize the best spots for calling with marginal hands. If you're out of position, you might also try and turn your hand into a bluff sometimes, and bet out or even check raise. But that'll not happen often either. I'm just telling you this so that you know it's a possibility. Don't do it often, but try to look for best spots for it and do it sometimes. You have a missed draw with no connections. That's sometimes gonna happen, and again, probably the most important thing will be how the hand played out. What's your opponent's range and what is he putting you on? Most of the time, you'll be folding here of course, but sometimes you'll have to bluff. So you should learn the best spots for bluffs. In general, these will be when your opponent's range is consisted of a lot of draws and most of them missed. You're in position and your range is perceived by your opponent as strong. So we discussed a little bit the play on the river. As you probably realized, it is not possible to cover every single scenario you can encounter on the river in a short video like this. I'm not sure it's possible in a long video either. But as you've learned, 2 out of 4 of these situations are easy to play. First one is when you have a very strong hand, because then you are only worried about extracting the most value out of your opponent. The second one is when you have a missed draw, and it's very easy because you'll simply be folding the vast majority of time. But sometimes you will bluff, and the best spots for bluffing will be when your opponent's range is consisted of a lot of draws and most of them missed. You are in position, and so far you've told a great story about the strength of your hand. The other two situations are kind of tricky, when you have a good hand and when you have a marginal hand, and it's not really possible to give you tips on that because every situation will be different. Just remember to take all the information you have available to you into account before making your decision. With experience, you learn to take the best course of action almost every time. And don't be afraid to make hero calls or big bluffs as long as these plays make sense to you. Thanks so much for watching, and wow, you are really quite a player right now. Keep it up, man. If you like this lesson, please share it with your friends, click the like button and subscribe for more future videos. Now go play poker. Seriously, go! You can have all the theory you want, but if you don't practice, you will not improve much. This course gives you everything you need to know to beat the small stakes games, but it doesn't give you practice. You absolutely have to play at least a couple hundred of hands after every lesson if you want to improve your game. I'm sure you're gonna have a ball. So, see you in the next lesson.